Yeah, it's tough. I mean, as you say, there's negativity and destructive behavior all around. And to be honest, I think art is one of the most important traits of humanity. Art is what gives me hope, I think, for human civilization. Um, for someone to be able to create something out of nothing, it's harder than destroying stuff, but it's more important. And so art acts as the counterbalance to all those bullies and destructive people out there. Each individual who creates gets something out of it, enriches their lives, and if other people can get to experience their creations, then it enriches their lives as well. So collectively, hopefully it makes an impact, and we don't forget that there's more to life than all those negative things that we all know that surround us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters Than That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And today I welcome a special guest. We got Ian, aka the Sanctity of Crows from Scotland. How you doing today, brother?
Hi, Brian. Doing good, thanks. Sun is shining. It's always a positive thing.
That's good to hear. And I've actually got a few people out of Scotland, believe it or not. But I guess which part of Scotland are you hailing from?
The west coast, southwest, sort of south of Glasgow. I don't know if you know where that Glasgow is.
I actually was in the UK, also with Scotland, all the other places. That was 2024, so it's almost going to be 2 years. But
yeah,
but I was in Edinburgh, and I want to keep calling it the Lake District. I forget what the actual town's name is, but I think it was basically just those parts of Scotland. But no, I have not been to Glasgow yet.
Yeah, it's about. I was actually born in Edinburgh, and I'm living about 2 hours drive away from Edinburgh now.
That's good to hear. But I guess what's new? I guess did you come out with an album recently?
I did on Thursday, so it's fresh off the presses, I'm afraid. So yeah, no, it's doing well. I've had some good reactions already, so I'm quite pleased.
Guess you want to go ahead and talk about it? I guess is it like a concept album, or is it mainly just a bunch of songs just put together and then just see what people's reactions are?
Yeah, well, yeah, it started off just as someone asked me to do challenged me to create a song that was 1 minute or less. This was about middle of last year, I think, and I came up with one. And I thought, no, this is too good to give them. Let me do another one for them and keep this one and make that into something bigger. And then, 1 minute long, it sounded very much like a reprise of something. So I then did a second one, which is 3 minutes long. And then gradually built up the idea of having all of the track titles mentioning or referring to time in some way. So eventually it turned into a concept album. And if you rearrange the track titles sort of chronologically, then it turned into, kind of an exploration of the cycle of birth, life, death, and reincarnation. So it turned into a concept album. That wasn't the intention, but I think it was a good thing. I think the tracks all kind of fit together quite well. So yeah, I'm very pleased with it.
I will say you had some songs that went over 10 minutes. I guess.
Yeah, I went up to nearly 15.
I was to say, how tough was that? Because normally you think of those real long songs. Normally it's maybe like a whole lot of editing, and I guess the more so the question is like, how was the whole process with those ones? I guess was it pretty tough?
Yes and no. I mean, I guess every extra minute you add to a song. I mean, a 3 minute song and a 15-minute song. A 15-minute song has got maybe 5 times as much work. There's five times as many minutes to put an effort into and to get sounding just how you want them. But it's also quite difficult because when you're listening back as you're creating it, most of us, I'm sure, will go through a process of try something, listen, okay, now fix something, listen again. When it's a 15-minute song, you can only listen 4 times in an hour. And it becomes quite tedious because I don't want to just listen to the little thing that I've changed, because quite often it's not just in one place. But also, the 8th minute in the song depends on what went before it. So it's got to fit. So I like to hear it from the beginning all the way through. So it becomes a little bit tedious in that respect if you have a long one. But yeah, no, it's not particularly. I don't follow a different process when it's a longer song. It's the same process that I do for pretty much everything.
All right, fair enough. But nonetheless, congratulations with the new album. So is it out on all streaming platforms?
Pretty much. My distributor didn't send it to, I think it was Apple Music, because they think it might not be accepted because they class it as generic instrumental. And apparently Apple Music is quite fussy about instrumentals, so it's not on Apple, but it's certainly on Spotify and a lot of the other ones, most of the other ones, I'm sure. YouTube as well.
That's where I actually found it last night. So I gave you a follow there too, mate.
Brilliant. Thank you.
No worries. But I guess we'll get more into music and everything else here too in just a moment. But first off, Ian, welcome to the podcast here, mate. And the way it's going to work is just want to ask you some questions, get to know you more both as the musician, but also at least the person as well here too, at least from what we're hearing in the story here too. And to fill in the audience, Ian chose to go by a little bit anonymous here too. So a little camera shy, but we'll make it work. So you ready?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So I guess we'll start with the beginning when he was just a wee lad. So I guess tell the audience your backstory. Who are you and how did you become a musician?
Well, yeah, I'm Ian. And I was born in Scotland, but I moved to England as a kid. Well, more correctly, my parents moved to England and they rudely insisted that I went with them. I was there from about 9, and then when I was 39, I relocated to South Africa, which is where I've got this non-Scottish accent from. And then when I retired at 60, I moved back to the UK and settled in Scotland again. So almost full circle. As I said, it's about 2 hours drive from where I was born. So back to my roots. My relationship with music probably started quite early. I mean, I was thinking about this just yesterday. I remember a very early memory of me sitting on the floor. I was probably be about 3, 4, and my parents had a record player. And in those days, it was one of those 1950s style ones, with a lid that opened up and a spindle. You had a little short spindle that would play one disc, or you could put a long spindle on. And you could stack up 3 or 4 discs, and they would drop down one after the other and play. And this played 78s, which was the single of the day. It's bigger than a modern single and a lot heavier than a modern single, but it's basically one song on each side. And I remember sitting there I think my parents had maybe 10 or 12 of the things. And I'd sit there in front of it for hours, just stacking them up and playing them through. And I kind of quite enjoyed it. But I didn't really do all that much with music until I started secondary school. I joined the choir, sang soprano for a few months until that didn't work anymore. And then I also, the first 2 years there, so I've been 11, 12, 13, those first 2 years, they tried to teach me to play violin. But it never really got past the scrapey, waily kind of sound. So, and also it was very based around reading music, and I just seem to have a blind spot when it comes to reading music. I understand the principles. I could tell you that the middle gap on the treble clef is an A, but trying to read it and play at the same time, I just could never learn to do. So I had to basically fake it. I had to play by ear and pretend I was reading the music. But after 2 years, that got to the point where I couldn't fake it anymore. So I dropped out of that, which is a good thing because it sounded bloody terrible. Then, when I was, I would say probably 13, I bought an electric guitar. A friend of mine at school and I bought an electric guitar. And we didn't buy expensive ones. They were cheap ones from the local department store. So I paid, back in 1972, I would reckon, I paid something like £25, which should be about $30 today at the current exchange rate. So it wasn't great, but I had fun with it. And I couldn't play it very often because, family and neighbors, a bit loud. So I don't know quite where I got it, but I actually acquired a 3/4 size classical guitar, played that for a bit, got a steel string folk guitar, and I also had a melodica, which is a mouth piano, and a flageolet, which is also known as a penny whistle, and I also had a Vietnamese flute, bamboo Vietnamese flute. So I listened to a lot of bands at that time, but one of them was the Incredible String Band, which is kind of a progressive folk band, and they played very talented multi-instrumentalists. So I kind of inspired by them to just try a lot of different things. I was never very good at any of it, and I didn't seem to get better the more I practiced. So, but I used to spend maybe 2 hours a day playing guitar, coming up with little songs, sort of verse, chorus things, coming up with melodies, putting lyrics to them, writing them in a book, and then doing another one. I think if I was doing it now, I would probably get quite disillusioned very fast that I wasn't particularly good. But I enjoyed it then, and I did it through towards the end of my teens. And then I stopped. I didn't quite stop then. The end of my teens, a friend of mine from school and I tried to get a band together. The usual thing. We hired the function room at the local pub. We advertised for a bass guitarist and got someone who was playing in a country and western band, I think it was. And my friend's friend played drums. So we did a couple of rehearsals, 2 or 3 rehearsals, and it didn't go anywhere for 2 reasons. One is the fact that we only had a couple of songs and that we didn't really know what we wanted them to sound like. We didn't know what genre we were going to play or anything. We just wanted to get together and see what happened. And the drummer and the bass player just really weren't too comfortable with that. They wanted to know what they were doing. And then the other thing was that everyone was kind of at the end of school. So it was some of us went off to work, some of us went off to university. So, for practical reasons, we ended up stopping, which is a shame. But yeah, the band was called Blenheim, but we never released anything or never even actually finished any tunes. Then I did nothing for 40-something years till I retired. After I retired, retired at 60. And about 2 years later, I got an electric guitar and an amp. Didn't play much, a few hours a month maybe. And then after about a year, I realized that the amp had come with a DAW, free license for a limited version of the DAW, Cubase. So I started fiddling around with that. Again, not much, but just, over a year. Eventually I had 2 songs. And then I decided, well, maybe I should try for an album, see what I can do. So I set myself a target of 60 minutes, thinking in terms of a CD album. And eventually, after, I don't know how many months, maybe another 9 months, 12 months, I had a full album. And that's what I released almost exactly 2 years ago. So everything else after that is kind of public knowledge. I mean, it's my discography on Spotify and wherever else.
That's pretty cool. And not to get off topic, but which part of South Africa were you living in at the time? And I guess how was it?
I was living in Johannesburg, so just north of Johannesburg, a place called Midrand. It's halfway between Johannesburg and Pretoria. But I worked in Johannesburg. I loved it. I mean, I sort of landed there, and pretty much within weeks I felt at home. That's why I've got the accent. I just kind of picked it up because I felt that this is where I belonged. Coming back to Scotland, I feel like an outsider. So yeah, it was really nice. The weather's brilliant. It's like Los Angeles, but without the earthquakes. Excuse the dogs that are outside the door barking. People are lovely. The food's great. Weather's brilliant. Lots of opportunities if you have specific skills, which I did. And yeah, it was really good. But it has its downsides, and it's not the best country to retire in. So hence I came back to the UK.
I was gonna say, what years were though? Because didn't they have apartheid at the time? I wasn't sure.
No, that ended in 1994. I arrived in 1997. So
okay, that's good. All right, that wasn't sure because I was hearing stories about it was a British heavy metal group called Napalm Death, and I guess they had talked about maybe some experiences they'd been down there in South Africa. I guess because there was guys with the Nazi tattoos and that sort of stuff, and they wanted to keep supporting the apartheid and everything there too. So it was almost like, boy, you better watch your back because if you ain't careful, you're going to get stabbed. That's their deal.
Yeah.
So
it's a very violent country. There's a lot of very violent crime. There are perhaps good reasons for that, given the history of the country. But yeah, it's not a safe place. You get used to it. You get used to watching your back when you're driving. You don't go walking anywhere. You drive. You could still get hijacked and shot or stabbed or whatever. You get used to it. You take all the precautions you can, and you just sort of try and enjoy life. And yeah, it just becomes second nature. You don't really think about it after a while,
Yeah. All right. It's good to have you back, mate. And I guess, well, I was going to say, what made you want to move back to Scotland there too? I know maybe moving out of South Africa, but why back to Scotland? Was just nostalgia, kind of get back to feeling like you're home again?
No, it was a financial decision. So the South African rand does not buy very many British pounds. So even though I was quite well off in South Africa, when you convert it into pounds, I'm not very well off at all. Scotland, and in fact, the part of Scotland I'm living in is essentially the cheapest place in the UK in terms of buying property. So I could afford to actually buy a reasonable house here, whereas I certainly wouldn't have been able to in London or anywhere else like that. So it was more a practical thing, a financial thing. But I mean, Scotland's really nice. I mean, it's not crowded like England is. Lots of scenery, open spaces. I mean, I'm looking out my window here, and I'm looking across fields and farmland, and there's hills in the background. So I like that. I don't like to be sort of squashed in with neighbors. I like a little bit of distance between myself and everyone else. That's really nice.
And apparently a lot of sheep too. I guess, is there a lot of sheep outside?
Yeah, it's mostly up here because it's hilly. It's not arable farming. It tends to be sheep and cattle. So the early part of the year in spring, the sheep, and then the cattle come out a bit later in the year.
All right, that's all good. So I guess let's go ahead and jump into the Sanctity of Crows. So from what I gathered with your story, it seemed like it was more of a quasi-retirement decision to kind of jump into this little project here too. So first off, where'd you get the name, and what really motivated you to kind of create this project?
Well, the name was, I probably got about 3/4 of the way through that first album that I talked about. It was called Amidst the Gloom. And there were quite a few gloomy tracks on the album, which is why I called it Amidst the Gloom. Also because I'm living in Scotland, which is quite gloomy a lot of the time. But there were a couple of tracks that had quite a gothic feel to them, and I was looking for a name that would fit the kind of music on the album. So I was thinking, well, maybe I can use the word crow. It's got kind of connotations. It's beautiful, but also dark and mysterious, and but every single title, every album, artist name that I could think of with crow in it, or crows in it, when you Google it, it's already been used. Stone the Crows has been done, so eventually I just hit on it by accident. There was no really conscious process. It's just, I was trying to think of good words to go with crows, and the Sanctity of Crows worked, and I couldn't find any other references to it. And I was also looking for a name that if someone searches for, then it should just pick up you, not a whole bunch of random things about crows or whatever. If you do Sanctity and crows, those are so uncommonly put together that it should come up with my music if people search for it. So that's kind of why. Why the project? It was really just, I was playing with music. I initially had no intention of releasing it, but about halfway through doing the first album, I started to feel, well, this isn't embarrassingly bad. Let's carry on, and maybe I'll release it when it's finished. And it's really just a practical thing. If you've created something, what are you going to do? Are you just going to file it away and no one's ever going to see it? That just doesn't seem quite right. So it's quite easy to release things. It doesn't cost much. That's how I released it. And of course, once you've released it, then you've got to start telling people. So you start to get into the whole promotion cycle on social media, and then it's half your day gone every day. It's just, it's fun. It's something to do in retirement. It keeps me busy, keeps me interested. I've always liked being creative, and this is just my current outlet for that. It's just, I really enjoy it.
That's cool. And I guess, how'd you find out about our little indie community? Because it seems like you're now pretty active in it.
Yeah, I guess I was probably looking for groups on Facebook where I could start to kind of promote the music. And I came across, I'm pretty sure the first one I came across was, and you'll probably know it, is Celt Stash Music. And I got, everyone was really friendly and supportive. And of course, eventually you start noticing other groups and you join those, and it just really builds up, But that was where I started. I'm pretty sure it was Celt Stash.
That's good to hear. And I wasn't sure, did COVID kind of have a little bit of a factor too? Because I wasn't sure how strict they were in terms of COVID procedures in terms of Scotland there.
Yeah, no, they were probably as strict as they were with you. It didn't affect me musically because I hadn't started at that stage. I think I only got the guitar the year after, probably about 2021. So 2020 was when there was the big lockdowns and stuff here. It didn't really affect me too much. We're not in a built-up area. We're in a rural area. And when you go shopping, you put a mask on. So, and fortunately, my wife and I, neither of us got COVID, at least not as far as we know. So it didn't really affect us too much. When you're retired, you don't mix that much as you did when you were working. It's almost made no difference in some ways. We spend a lot of time at home. So
I guess in your case, the only thing different was just putting a mask on when you went outside. So
yeah. I actually kept doing that for, particularly given my age, and I'm 67 now. You've got to be a bit more careful of your health because you're more susceptible, supposedly. So I actually wore the mask for about 2 or 3 years when I went shopping, but I eventually just gave up. So I haven't done it for a while.
That's good to hear. But on a serious note, good seeing you and the family are doing well there, mate.
Yeah, cheers.
And I don't know how much you tend to go out or how big your town is in your neck of the woods there too. Do you try to go to any shows every now and again to see what the music scene's like in around your area of Scotland?
We're a long way from anywhere major, so it's not something we tend to do. I'm in a little town of a few thousand people. They're not going to host AC/DC or anyone, Glasgow is the nearest big city, but that's over an hour's drive, which is fine. But We actually, a couple of months ago, can't remember exactly when it was, we went to see Amun Ra in Glasgow. Quite enjoyed that, but that's the first one for a very long time. South Africa, there's not many bands go to South Africa to perform, so I think I saw one or two local bands when I was there, but that was nothing that anyone would recognize.
So not really much of a pub scene in their little town of Scotland over there, is it?
Oh, I don't know. There probably are a few musicians in the town, but they're not making themselves known. I think in the next town over, I'm sure I saw on Facebook that one of the bands on Facebook was from that next town over, but I can't remember who it was now. I haven't heard of them for a long time now. But yeah, I'm sure they're all over. There are people making music in just about every corner of the world.
Especially now with the technology and being able even do what you're doing here too. So you can see
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I sort of, after I'd done the first album, I sort of thought back to when I was a teenager and I was trying to make music. If I'd had that kind of technology back then, maybe I would have kept going instead of taking a 40-year break. So it's just quite amazing what people can do. And there's so many people collaborating now, just shipping files backwards and forwards and different parts of the world. It's actually quite incredible.
I guess even your time in South Africa, did you ever really consider maybe taking up an instrument? Or I guess was work just that much taking over your life, to be honest?
Yeah, no, I didn't really. I did. Yeah, no, I mean, my wife had a guitar. She had a nylon string guitar, and once in a while I'd pick it up and I'd bore myself and everyone else silly by playing the same few little riffs over and over and again, because I never really learned any riffs ever. But I quickly got tired of that. And I'd spent 15 years in my creative outlet. Yeah, work was a lot, and commute was sometimes an hour and a half each way, because the traffic in Joburg is quite terrible. But my creative outlet wasn't so much music then, but I used to go 3 hours a week to the local pottery studio and sit and throw things on the wheel. I did that for 15 years. So that was my creative outlet. And then when I came back to the UK for a couple of years, I decided to do graphic design and create things for print on demand. So T-shirts and mugs and all those kind of things. That kept me going for a couple of years, and then I found the music thing. So currently it's music. That's really all I've got time for. Takes a lot of my time.
All right. But we encourage you, keep doing what you're doing out there, Ian. We especially like your music there too.
Thank you.
And also keep the music scene going wherever you may be in a part of the world, whether it's rural or urban. Keep it going there, people. So,
Yep.
All right. Now we jump into the fun topic of gear. So, not sure if you had any updates, but I guess what sort of gear do you use to make the magic happen?
It's very little. I've got a laptop and I've got a DAW, that limited version of Cubase. So some of the more advanced functionality isn't there, and I'm limited to, I think it's 8 MIDI tracks and 16 audio tracks in a project. But that's usually, I can work within that, or I can find workarounds. And I can only have 4 inserts per track within the project, but it's pretty powerful, and I kind of learned the basics. So there's that, the DAW on the laptop, and then I've got a Hagstrom Alvar guitar and a Line 6 Spider V30 Mark II modeling amp. So basically, certainly for the first album, that's all I had for creating the music was the laptop, the modeling amp, and the guitar. The thing with the modeling amp is that it's kind of like a guitar synthesizer. So if you tweak some of the settings to their extreme, then it can start sounding not like a guitar. So it can start sounding like a synth or strings or horns or something. And so a lot of the stuff that you hear in my music is actually guitar, even though it doesn't maybe sound like it. Everything else is virtual instruments. You know, a lot of the virtual instruments I actually play directly on the laptop keyboard. You've got 2 octaves worth of keys there, and I sort of randomly play those and record that. Occasionally I'll program some of them directly in the MIDI piano roll. But that's pretty much it. I have a plugin that I haven't used it very much, but it converts the guitar audio to MIDI in real time. So you can use the guitar to actually play a virtual instrument. So you could be playing your guitar and it comes out like synths or drums or whatever. I need to learn how to use that better. I haven't done much with it. And then about 2 years ago, I bought a full-size MIDI keyboard. But I'll be honest, I haven't really used that much either, because it's still pressing the key down is still an awkward action for me. It's not a comfortable thing like playing guitar is. I'm not a great guitarist. I wouldn't even call myself a guitarist, but at least I kind of feel okay playing it. Whereas playing the keyboard and pressing those keys, it's something I want to do at some stage, is just get more familiar with it and start using it a bit more. But essentially, it's just an amp and a guitar and a laptop. That's my kit.
I was going to say, in terms of, it's still Cubase, so I was curious how much virtual instruments they gave, because I know I use Logic Pro, and they have a little, I'll just call it an app in this case, but it's called Alchemy. It gives you like a whole assortment of noises that you're able to make whenever you got like the notes and all that sort of stuff. Is there something similar on Cubase? I guess it allows you to give you any of that orchestral or sort of ambient sort of sounds?
Yeah, it comes with a whole bunch of virtual instruments. I think they call it a media pack or something. So there's a lot of stuff in there, and you can come up with lots of different sounds, and they're configurable as well. So you can obviously create your own sounds. But I've downloaded at least 100 different virtual instrument plugins, some of which are sampler plugins. So I think it's DS Sampler or DS Sample, which basically is a plugin that you have different extensions to, the way people create a particular sound, and it just becomes available within that one plugin. So I've downloaded some synths with a couple of thousand presets, you know. So I've got an endless number of permutations of different sounds that I can use or create. So that's not the problem. I always like finding new sounds. For me, when I start a tune, the thing that kicks me off is the sound. I'm very sonically oriented. I don't write music, you know, generally with lyrics. I'm not telling a story lyrically. I'm not telling people something. I've never really listened to lyrics in music. For me, it's another instrument, and it's the sound of the words that's important to me, not the actual words themselves. So for me, it's a sound, and I'll find a sound on the guitar or a sound in those virtual instruments somewhere that just makes me feel, oh, that can play that. That's exciting. And then you start with one, and then you've got to add more, and eventually you end up with a full finished track. And that's what I really enjoy, is creating something out of nothing.
So yeah, yours kind of sound like a little bit of like movie tracks, more so just instrumental sort of songs there too. So I think before we had hopped on, I think you talked about in your album Time, there's only like maybe 2 songs that have like lyrics in them.
Yeah, the first one and the fourth one, and I didn't plan on doing it when I started, but I'm one of those maybe strange people that gets ahead of themselves. I keep a list of, I add to a growing list of possible titles every time I think of something. Well, that would be a cool title. I keep a list on my phone. I create album artwork for some of those titles, even though I've got no music, just because, I've probably got 50 album covers waiting, just ready for when I've got music that will fit, you know. I find that being creative outside music on its own helps me create the music. A lot of the tracks on the album that came out on Thursday, Time, I came up with the titles first and then I come up with the music. So I get inspiration from not just the sounds that I'm using, but concepts like the title or graphics or whatever. And those kind of feed in. So I can't remember now why I started telling you this, but maybe you'll remember. But yeah, it comes together gradually, and yeah, it usually ends up kind of being quite cinematic because I'm trying to put into music what I've got in my head, the vision or the mood that I've got in my head, if that makes sense.
It was actually delving more into lyrics, but
oh yeah, of course. So
yeah,
that was it. So yeah, no. So what I was heading towards was that I didn't plan on doing lyrics, but even though I hadn't finished any of the tracks that they ended up going on to, I thought, well, this track, the title is this. What would the lyrics be? Let me draft some lyrics. And then I'd probably done most of the tracks on the album. And then for the first track, Pistols at Dawn, I thought, I've got lyrics that work. I was sitting in bed one morning and thinking, I'm not uncomfortable with these lyrics. Let me just try singing them into my cell phone. Remembering that I hadn't sung for 40-something years, not even in the shower. I didn't know what my voice would sound like or anything, you know, so I was really quite nervous about it. But I just sat there, held the phone in front of my face, sang. And then later in the day, I sat down and I put that into the track, found a place where everything would go. And it actually, I wouldn't say my vocals are great at all, but the track sounded better with the vocals in it. Even though I'm not a vocalist and I don't really, not into lyrics, it just improved things. And then the fourth track on the album is called Living for Tomorrow. I came up with a track when I was a teenager, back in about 73, just after I got that first guitar. I wrote a song and actually recorded it on cassette. I had two cheap radio cassette players, tape recorders, with two cassettes, one in each. And I did the first track, moved the cassette over, hit record, pressed play on the other one, did another layer. And I did 3 layers on it. And I've carried that through my entire life, because I really liked it. It always sounded like a long lost demo of Hawkwind. And when I came to this track, I thought that song that I created 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago, that song would be perfect for this concept within the concept album. I tried very hard to recreate it and I couldn't get the same sound, the same feel. So I ended up just taking the DNA from it. I took all the riffs, the melodies, a bit of the vocal melody, which came through in sax rather than vocals mostly, and then came up just basically ad-libbed some vocals and fitted those in. And again, not great vocals, but I felt it just added something to the track, so I left those in. I don't know if I'm ever going to do it again, but it's where I'm at. I'm trying new things. If it doesn't always work, that's great, you know.
I guess while we're on that topic, the 2 songs you just mentioned, I guess the lyrics on those songs, I guess, what do they delve into? I guess, is there some sort of story, or is there maybe a little personal experience that we're kind of getting to know more about you?
Yeah, no, you're not going to get to know more about me. This guy with an avatar. No, I haven't written about myself. It's all conceptual stuff. It's the first track is Pistols at Dawn, so it's really about this whole cycle of birth, life, death, and reincarnation. This is the first stage. So it's the readiness of the universe to create a new life, basically. And as I said, I don't really do lyrics. I don't pay attention, not even to my own. So I can't tell you exactly what the lyrics for that are, but they're really just trying to set the scene for. I know there's one more time and another day, and things like that. There's short ad-lib phrases, pretty much. There's one verse. There's only one solid verse, which is I'm kind of envisaging plant-like creatures with their pistils ready to be pollinated. And I know that one line is something like facing off across a field, So it's almost like there's a duel going on with these plant-like creatures competing for the pollen or whatever. So it's all a bit weird, a bit psychedelic. No drugs taken.
It's almost like we need like a little warning or disclaimer in the beginning right there. Like no drugs were taken in the beginning.
No drugs were taken, yeah.
Yeah. That's probably good though too. Good to take it. So okay. But I guess in terms of your other instrumentals, it seemed like you did a good amount of singles and it looks like 2 albums right now. And it seemed like earlier with the Time one, it seemed like that one dealt with time there too. But I guess some of your other songs, are they kind of also dealing with time, or because I think some ones that come to mind here is like, this wasn't what I had in mind, and then like Up on the Skin of the Ocean. So
yeah,
I guess
this wasn't what I had in mind. Was very literal. I sat down thinking, let me try something Tool-like, let me just try some palm muted Tool-y kind of guitar. And it's nothing like that at all. It's the complete opposite. It turned into a kind of a proggy track with some synth and some guitar and stuff. So I didn't know what to call it. I had no idea. I just called it, this wasn't what I had in mind. There's no other reason. Upon the Skin of the Ocean is on that first album, there's an 18-minute, I think it's 18 minutes, 20 seconds long track, 6-part track. I thought I'd go the full prog epic experience, with my first album. It's not at all pretentious. So the 6 parts, and Upon the Skin of the Ocean, I think, is part 2. I ended up releasing each of the 6 parts as a separate single. And the whole track was called The Lighthouse at the Edge of the World. So there's kind of a nautical flavor to it. Upon the Skin of the Ocean is a little bit like a prog jazz sea shanty kind of thing. I was experimenting a lot on that first album, and I tried a lot of different things because I hadn't created music since I was a teenager. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. It's like when I was a teenager with the band rehearsing in the pub. I didn't know what I wanted to come out. I didn't know what genre I was aiming for. And I also wasn't with that first album, really. I've always loved prog music, but in the most general sense. But so yeah, there's a bit of variety stylistically on that first album, and even in that 6-part long track. But yeah, there are a lot of. I've actually got three full albums. The Time is the third one, and almost an album. It was a 29-minute long EP. So I've basically done 3.5 albums in the last 2 years. I'm getting a bit tired now. I need a rest.
Say, don't stop now. You're getting some butt right there, man. Good job.
Yeah, I won't stop. Don't worry.
Next thing you know, he's going to be like performing on stages doing the whole Rolling Stones sort of deal next before you know it.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Everything I do, Brian, is improvised. I don't. I get bored very quickly with creative things, and I tend not to get better when I practice. So I've never learned to play anyone else's songs or riffs, not even my own. So I basically sit down with a guitar tone that I like, and I start playing, and then I take the best bits and create some music out of it. So yeah, improvising on stage, unless you're super talented, unless you know kind of where you put your fingers to get a certain note, which I'm not at that level. You don't want to be improvising on stage. Well, you can be on stage improvising, but you don't want people listening. They don't want to be listening. So yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I'm still very much a proto-novice level guitarist. and I'm don't really play anything else. So
I just having fun with it too, but that's all right. So actually, just think of people in their older ages, and even just looking at people like what was Ozzy Osbourne, Lemmy Kilmister, and even like the Rolling Stones, how they were still going in their old age. So
I know I can't believe that there's all these people that were probably only 10 years older than me, or sometimes 20. I was looking at it was the Rolling Stones or which band it was and how old they all are now, but they're all in their late 70s, early 80s. And I was thinking, good grief, as so much time has gone past. I remember when they were youngsters, with pimply skins,
yeah, you can definitely see why. And then there's Ian, that whole deal. So
yeah.
okay. So, but I guess when I was checking out your Spotify page, it said, I guess, award-winning indie artist. So I guess what sort of award did you win?
There's a guy called Neil Jones who I think he co-owns Smart Radio 101. I don't know if you've ever come across that. He's based in the UK, but obviously internet broadcasting to the whole world. In 2024, he nominated my second album, which was called Flowers of the New Dawn, as Album of the Year. No, that's a lie. Sorry. On the basis of that album, he nominated me as Newcomer of the Year. So I was Newcomer of the Year in 2024 for Smart Radio 101. So that was, that allows me to put award-winning on the bio, doesn't it? I'm really chuffed with that.
I mean, we can joke. You say he's a Grammy winner, so in that case, but I think that's more. I think that's more
not even a nominee, but
hey, I mean, it's something. So I mean,
yeah,
it's all good. Nonetheless, congratulations, they're made. So,
cheers.
All right. I forgot to ask about influences because it seems like more so with Sanctity of Crows. I think we have been talking about more about the prog rock, progressive rock, whatever you want to say. So, did you look to bands more so in that genre, like Jethro Tull?
Yeah, Jethro Tull's kind of prog folk, but there's prog with a capital P and there's progressive with a small p, and I'm more the prog with a capital P is the flamboyant, cape-wearing, sequined, play lots of notes per second, technically proficient people. Progressive is a broader category, and it's just basically people who are trying something new, just trying to be original. And there was a whole period from, I would say, mid 60s to mid 70s where there's just a huge explosion, almost like a Precambrian explosion of life. It was just an explosion of different new musical styles in that decade. And so a lot of what I liked as a teenager in the 70s and kept liking since then came from that period. So there's all the classic bands, the Black Sabbaths and the Deep Purples and Led Zeppelins and Hawkwind, but I also had influences. Some of the more obscure bands like Soft Machine and Caravan and Magma, PFM, Can from Germany. I liked a lot of different bands, as long as they were doing something interesting and different. I've never really been that, formulaic music has never had much appeal for me. So I like to be interested, kept interested in the music. So some people like familiar music. I like unfamiliar music, and that probably comes out in the kind of music that I create. It's not for everyone, especially being instrumental. Being instrumental, maybe 99% of people aren't interested. So it immediately cuts your potential listener base to 1%. But it's fine. I'm not aiming for stardom or fame and fortune. I just it's nice to have your music heard by people and have a few of them appreciate it. That's really what it's about.
I'd say you did something right, because I mean, like, hey, you got, at least in terms right now, in terms of Spotify, I mean, you had the 400 sub listeners so far. So I mean, like, you're doing something right.
Yeah, it's been lower. It goes up and it goes down. few weeks ago, I think I was probably about 250, but yeah, it just varies. But yeah, as long as it sort of gradually trends up, I'll be happy.
That's for sure. And I guess since you already released an album so far, I guess you think you might release any more singles this year, or maybe try to start putting together a new album for next year?
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really thought about it, other than I don't think I want to do another concept album next. It's been quite intensive for the last 9 months that I spent doing it. 65 minutes worth of music. I worked it out the other day, about a week ago. I posted it on my Facebook page. That's roughly 810 hours worth of work. Or to put it another way, each second took me 750 seconds to create. So it's basically 3 hours a day for 9 months. It's a lot of time, and especially when you get into the second half and the end is in sight, you start putting pressure on yourself to get it finished. And yeah, that's fine. It's my own pressure, and I can change the deadline if I want to. And unfortunately, I didn't have to. I finished about 2 days before I planned on releasing it. But yeah, I think this year I'm going to take it a little bit easier and not be quite as rigid about creating a concept album. I think I want to explore the keyboard a bit more. I want to explore that plugin that allows me to play virtual instruments in real time from the guitar. I just want to explore, and I know that I've got enough experience now over the last 2 years to know that when I start doing that, there will be things that I feel I need to turn into a finished piece of music. So I probably will release those as singles and maybe bundle them up into an album at some stage. But at this stage, yeah, spring is here. I've got work to do outside, DIY. Got things that I've been putting off. So I'm going to take it a little bit easy. Still keep doing it though. And yeah, I don't know any more than you do at this stage what's going to come next.
All right. You just do you. And good luck with any projects you got outside this year. So
yeah, thanks.
All right. Hey, it's good exercise there too. So I mean, like they say, get some exercise.
Yeah. Yep, that's the only exercise I get these days.
Yeah. Can't really do much in terms of fingers whenever you're just doing the keyboard and the guitar. So
yeah, it's not like drums. Yeah.
No.
Drums is probably a bit of a workout.
Actually, speaking of which, is it a Cubase sort of plugin that allows you to do the drums on your music?
Yeah. No, it comes with. I guess you call it a plugin. It's they call it Groove Agent, and it comes with, even my limited version. It's got probably about 100 different drum kits. So when I'm doing a track, I can work through those, trying to work out which of the drum kits will fit the track best. I try and pick the one that I think best suits. And yeah, you can obviously then you program the drums in the MIDI. I can't play drums. I've never played drums. I have a very terrible sense of rhythm. I think I'd be awful at it. So yeah, no, all the drums are done in that virtual instrument on everything I've done.
All right, just always wanted to check because the one I use is called Superior Drummer, which acts as sort of plug it in, if you will, but it does give you a whole assortment of like all sorts of drums you could choose from there too. So it's probably along the same lines, but
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So I don't know, but it's whatever. All right.
So you don't play. You're a drummer, so you don't play drums. You actually program them. Is that something you do sometimes?
It's more programmed because it's more of an electric set over there, but I can.
Oh, okay.
It's not so much of a culture shock to get on an acoustic set, so I could easily play real drums if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
okay, cool.
So, it's all good. All right, and just a couple questions before I jump into some extra fun ones.
Sure.
The first one, I guess, sort of deals with challenges, which I think we can answer pretty quick. But do you think your challenges today is more so creating the music?
Yeah, I mean, I do okay. I think my music is better than anyone with my level of experience deserves to be able to create. It's not wonderful music, but I think my biggest challenge is really just my lack of experience, my lack of technical skills. I haven't, like many people, spent my entire life learning to play the guitar and playing it a lot and maybe playing live and playing with other people. Um, and also in the production side, I'm literally just playing that by ear as well. I don't know what I'm doing. I just twiddle things till I think it sounds right. Um, and I learn as I go along, and I think I'm getting a bit better with that. But so I guess, yeah, it's a constraint for me. I can't do. You won't hear me shredding. I can't do those wonderful prog guitar solos. Or at least not yet. um, yeah, so that's my biggest challenge. Really is. I mean, I do okay without it, but if I could develop the skills, both playing, whether it's guitar or keyboard or whatever, and also in production, then that would be a good thing, I think.
Because I hasn't got to the finger tapping that'll do those sorts of solos yet. So,
no.
It'd be interesting. So, I guess if you not really run any sort of social media outside of Facebook, I guess you don't really do like a YouTube channel. Maybe guys showed you playing some riffs or anything like that.
No, because I don't play riffs. I improvise on the spot, and I could never play the same thing again. So, well, probably could the simple ones, but it wouldn't be that proficient, I think, to have people watch that. Yeah, they wouldn't want to watch me doing it. I'm not good enough, I think. I do have a YouTube channel. I try to create at least one video for every track that I release, and so far I'm up to date, except for the new album. But I think that's probably something I'm going to have to do over the next few months, is just gradually create a video for each of those tracks, release them throughout the year, keep me busy. I'm also on Blue Sky, X. I think that's it.
I take it fake Facebook for actually help me find you, to be honest. So
yeah. In fact, Facebook is the main place. It's the easiest place to connect with people and actually have proper conversations. Or at least that's what I found. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also good thing you put the email address there too, so I was able to reach out. So
yeah. No, thanks. Thanks for doing that.
No worries. And I guess, do you use AI strictly for the artwork? And I don't know, your YouTube videos, do you use like some sort of AI to like put like maybe a little music video together?
Yeah, I use AI I don't use it in the music, but I use it for the graphics, for social media. Because I did graphic design for a few years at home, I can manipulate images, but I can't create one from scratch. So I tend to get AI to come up with the bits, and I'll put them together into a finished product. And much the same with the videos. The first album, it was over 2 years ago. So 24, probably about 27, 28 months ago, when AI video generation was not as sophisticated as it is now. I signed up with a new platform that had just come along, that had synchronized, so music synchronized effects. So you could synchronize things like zooming or whatever with the underlying music. But it was quite tedious. It generates frame by frame, and you have to kind of watch each frame. And when it starts going off track, then you go backtrack and you stay, you give it more prompts and then move forward again. So it was a hell of a lot of work. I spent probably 10 hours. No, it can't have been 10 hours a day. It might have been 10 hours a day for a whole month, creating an album's worth of videos, 10 videos. So that was all AI generated. The whole thing was AI generated. These days, I'll take maybe AI generated images, sample, there's free videos that you can download, royalty free videos, and merge those together with others and create videos. Occasionally I've gone out with my cell phone and recorded stuff, but usually there's quite a bit of AI in the videos and the graphics that I publish.
Yeah, speaking of which, do you feel like AI is kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword these days? I guess more so in terms of maybe even creating the music here too, because obviously you find your uses with the social media, maybe some video outlets, and it's for a tight budget.
Yeah, well, for sure. I used to work in the music industry the last 10 years when I was working in South Africa. I was in music rights management, so copyright management. And I did a presentation to the board probably 15 years ago about the future of music, future of technology in music or something like that. And I actually told them at the time, and they just laughed at me. I said, in the future, a lot of music will be generated by computers. And I even showed them a very simple example. It was just like a melody generator at the time. That was about the best they had on the internet at that stage. And I told them about some of the implications, and they just laughed at me. They really didn't believe this was going to happen. And I said, it can happen anything in 10 to 20 years' time. A lot of music will be created by computers, AI, didn't call it AI back then. And real music by humans will become kind of premium music, like champagne is compared to just normal fizzy wine. Champagne is reserved for special occasions. Real music created by humans, special occasions. But when people are just listening and not really paying much attention, economically, financially, from the point of view of people they don't have to pay license fees to get the music. They don't have to pay creators royalties. So why would they if there's an equivalent that does the job for free? So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. But on the other hand, and it's hard to say this as a creator whose job creating music might be taken over by computers. But on the other hand, AI is an enabler for people who don't have the technical skills, or maybe for whatever reason can't acquire the technical skills because they don't have the money or the circumstances or whatever, to be able to express themselves creatively. So it's a positive in that more people will be able to be creative. And I think there's value to each individual person in being creative and creating stuff. But yeah, it is, I think there's a high percentage of the music on Spotify is generated by AI. I was just reading this morning that there was someone who, over something like the last 5 or 6 years, had been creating large quantities of AI generated music, uploading it to Spotify and running bot servers to stream that music. And he'd be earning millions over the last few years just from doing that. It's actually fraud. Copyright is, I know this because I was in the business, copyright is a legal thing designed to protect human creation. If it's not significantly created by humans, then there is no copyright. It's free for all, public domain, and you can't collect royalties on it. So if you collect royalties on something which is AI generated, then that's fraud. So yeah, I can see it from both sides, and I'm kind of sitting on the fence, or maybe I've split myself in two and I'm sitting on both sides of the fence. I think there's, as you say, there's pros and cons. It's here, it's not going to go away. I think we have to find a way to live with it.
Let's say, man, you were a prophet back in the day.
I had the sandals and the beard and everything.
It was like Jesus reincarnated before you know it. So yeah. So yeah, actually, kind of jumping ahead of you too, but I guess what else did you do in your life? I guess were you always strictly I know you talked about the whole thing with doing copyright, that sort of deal, but I guess what other hobbies did you do?
Hobbies. Oh God, I always listen to a lot of music. I didn't have that many hobbies. I mean, it's like music, reading. I like reading. Never been into sport, so that rules a lot of that stuff out. As I said, in later life, sort of aged 45 to 60, I did pottery. That was my main hobby. Yeah, I can't think that there was anything that really got me super enthusiastic other than listening to music and reading sci-fi. I love sci-fi.
I was going to ask you, like, watching any sci-fi? I don't know if you really get into any sort of TV.
I do if it's done well. I hate the sci-fi where in the first minute you think, but that's physically impossible. The laws of physics don't allow that to happen. It's fantasy. It's not sci-fi. And I've never been a fan of fantasy. So, I think 99% or 95% of sci-fi turns me off, movie-wise. And it's never anything like as good as the book if they've made it from a book. But sometimes they get it really, really right. Probably my favorite movie of all time is Blade Runner, with music by Vangelis. Blade Runner is just such a incredible. I mean, it's based on a book by Philip K. Dick, big sci-fi author, and it's just so atmospheric. I just love it. I'm not the kind of person who can watch the same movie over and over again, but that would be an exception. It's just a joy to watch visually and sonically,
I guess it was more so for the editing there. I guess when Roy Beatty's getting ready to jump over the edge, then he kind of gives that little speech.
Yeah.
All right. And just going back to the AI thing, just tread carefully on that sort of stuff there, people. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, is there anything kind of being discussed? I don't know how much you watch in terms of news or anything. Is there anything in terms of the UK government, let alone the Scottish government, talking about saying they maybe want to regulate it or anything like that?
What, AI? Yeah. There was a whole thing recently in the UK. The government was thinking of allowing AI companies to basically scrape music and other creative content as a fair use, which frankly, in my view, it's not. But they've just backtracked on that. I read today or yesterday or something. So who knows what's going to happen with that. But it's not fair use to be able to take something that someone has put time and effort into creating, and lots of people have spent, in order to be able to do those people out of a job. That's exactly what copyright was created to prevent. So no, you cannot. It's not fair use. You pay for it, and only if you're given permission by the creators, the owners of the copyright. So we'll see what happens. I don't have a lot of confidence that it will go entirely our way, but yeah, it's looking better than it did a couple of days ago, I think, in the UK.
We shall see. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. So we have reached the question here pretty good, and we did actually jump into a couple extra fun ones right here. So let's cover some other ones here. So ready?
Okay, go for it.
All right. So I'm curious if there's a particular dish I haven't heard about in your part of Scotland, but is there a particular dish you consider your favorite food of all time?
Not Scottish dish. I've actually been vegetarian for almost 30 years now. But Scotland's sort of national dish is the haggis. I don't know if you know what a haggis is. Did you get to taste it when you were in Scotland?
It was actually mixed, and it's a interesting dish. I'll tell you that much. It was actually they put it in between like sausage. I think it was like a sausage and it was pretty much a breakfast sandwich. They put a little haggis on it there too. So
okay.
I could claim I had it. So yes.
Yeah. So I actually used to really like that, and there are vegetarian equivalents that taste similar. But I'll have to be honest. My favorite food is what we call here chips. So French fries, fries. It's just the greatest human invention ever, I think. um, and pizza and chocolate, I'm a big fan of. And then you're probably going to make a strange face when I tell you this, but one of my favorite things to eat is just to take a can of baked beans, empty it into a bowl, crack a couple of eggs on the top, bang it in the microwave for about 5 minutes, and then put salt and pepper on it, and then eat it with a teaspoon. It's not a national dish, it's just me. If I'm on death row and they ask me what I want for my last meal, it would be that and chips.
Should we? I guess we gotta think of a name for it now. Should be like the crow's dish or something.
Yeah, the crow's dish.
I mean, you're right in terms of making an interesting face, but it's always like, okay, that's definitely an odd one. But all right, I thought you both.
You haven't. Yeah. Don't knock it if you haven't tried it.
Yeah, it's not. So fair enough there too. So all right, great choices. So I know we talked about movies earlier, so I know you mentioned about Blade Runner, but do you not get into like any TV series, regardless of whether it is sci-fi or action?
Yeah, my wife and I, we're watching 2 or 3 series at any point in time. We try and watch movies when we can, but you run out of movies that are available that are ones that you'd be interested in watching. So, but I don't pay that much. I mean, at the moment we're watching The Man in the High Tower. We just started that yesterday on Netflix. That's also a Philip K. Dick story that's been turned into a series. And I think we watched 2 episodes last night, and it looks quite good. So that's kind of sci-fi where they maybe done it well, in my view. But yeah, it's just most of these series that we watch, it's in one ear and out the other ear. Once it's finished, you forget what it was. To be honest.
Actually, it's The Man in the High Castle, not Tower.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. Sorry.
You're good. It's all good. So, actually, you never really got into fantasy, so I guess Game of Thrones and I guess all their spin-offs.
I loved Game of Thrones. I think the spin-offs didn't enjoy so much, but Game of Thrones is great. I actually read the books before I saw that, and I thought they did that well as well. But yeah, Mr. R.R. Martin needs to get his act together and get the final book written, not fuss around all these TV series and things that he's busy with.
I know. He practically had 10 years after it initially came out in 2011, and then we're still here 15 years later.
Yeah. Now, when Game of Thrones started appearing, he said, "I've nearly finished the 5th book. I think it's the 5th book, the 5th and final book of the series. I've nearly finished it." And then a year later, he said, "I've nearly finished it." And a year later, he said, "I'll finish it soon." And I just don't think he's been doing anything at all. I think he's enjoying the TV and Netflix stuff a lot more, I reckon.
I guess. But that is also injury. Like the newest spinoff is A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which I think you would like those ones because they're at least somewhat more accurate. Obviously, more in a fantasy setting, but they don't have dragons. They don't really show the magic. It's more like knights in combat and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, we watched that and we did enjoy it. It's got a sense of humor that the Game of Thrones doesn't. But what I liked about the Game of Thrones things in the books and in the series is the fact that the main character kept getting killed off. That's just such a unique way of approaching it. You get people to invest in someone and then suddenly they're not there anymore. They've been killed. I just loved that approach. I thought that's, doing it differently, I appreciate that.
I wasn't sure if that was also kind of the inspiration with the crow logo or the avatar that we have on here. But he's using ravens instead. But so
yeah, no, I was just looking for something that was vaguely saintly and crow-like, and that's what I came up with.
All right. All great choices. And I guess for the last of the fun ones, I know you mentioned in terms of hobbies, you listen to a good amount of music. So I guess what you've been listening to recently in terms of music, whether they are considered mainstream, indie, or I guess anyone sort of in between mainstream or indie.
Yeah. Since I started creating music, I haven't really listened to my music collection. I mean, I think something like 30,000 albums on my phone that I've collected over the years. And I used to spend a lot of time listening to those. Just put it on shuffle and just play through. And I haven't really done that in the last 2 years. I spend a lot of time listening to music from the indie community on playlists and things. And I have to say, I really enjoy it. I mean, indie does not mean second rate. There is some real talent in the indie community and some incredible music, just as good as some of the big acts. There are hundreds of bands that I listen to now that I never would have done. And I guess that's one of the positive spin-offs from having gotten into this myself, is that I probably appreciate what goes into creating music more, and I'm more open to listening to things that aren't exactly what I maybe would have chosen to listen to, because very often I'll hear something that is actually quite incredible and I would have missed out on that otherwise.
Yeah, there's too much to choose from. So it's almost like so many artists, so little time. That will do.
So. Pink Floyd doesn't need my streams. Other artists do.
Yeah, we go for the people who still have the talent, but they don't get the recognition. That whole deal.
Yeah.
And also make sure to support Sanctity and Crows as well. So, all right. So, Ian, I guess we have breezed all the questions here. We're down to one more on my podcast. Before we jump into it, I guess, would you like to ask me anything real quick?
Yeah, I'm curious if your only instrument is drums, or what else you do, Brian? Because I've seen videos of you drumming. That's great. I don't know what else you do in music other than what you're doing here, which I think is fantastic.
First of all, thank you. I tried my best to promote everybody, so that's why I think I reached out the first time, and I think you didn't have anything released at the moment. But I think you also mentioned that you were camera shy, so you thought it was going to be a sort of interview. But I also reached out because I saw you did have a little bit of a catalog then, so I figured also that was worth trying to also get a nice promotion out of it too. But to answer your question, I used to do cello back in the day, so I think maybe we could have actually been a nice duo as the violin and a cello player.
Yeah.
Sorry, something caught my throat. I did cello pretty much actually, well, we consider the state's third grade all the way through high school. But unfortunately, when going off to college or university, as some of you blokes say out there, it's they didn't have a cello program, or let alone a sort of orchestral program. So unfortunately, it just sat around collecting dust. So we eventually sold that. So it has been mainly drums. I do vocals on my music projects. At the moment, I'm doing 2 at the moment. So it's pretty much just vocals and drums, pretty much as of now.
Okay, cool.
I guess anything else?
No, that's fine. I'm just interested in hearing a little bit more about you. I've seen a few of your videos, a few of your podcasts. Some of them are really interesting, and you seem to have so many. I don't know how many you've done. It looks like hundreds. I don't know. It's just such a valuable archive that you've created. It's got value to the indie community and also beyond that, I think. So it should be in a museum somewhere, I think, so that in 100 years' time, people can find out about all these important indie artists.
We can throw it in the Louvre before you know it. So,
yeah.
Next, actually, I think last night, or maybe the other night, it was at 360 videos just for the podcast alone.
Really? Wow.
So we almost got a year's worth of videos before you know it.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Which I think might be yours before you know it. So we can close out the year with Sanctity Crows. So yeah, there's a good bit. But back then, since I was having trouble trying to get people to come on, I wasn't really like invested in the indie community at the time. So sometimes it was like people who were just maybe strictly drummers on YouTube, for instance. If it went over an hour, maybe close to 2 hours, I tend to split that into 2 parts. So that's why the number's a little inflated. So.
Okay. Yeah, the last one I watched, I think, was nearly 2 hours. That was Tony from the Kind Machine, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit of a talker.
You've got to have some stamina to last for the full 2 hours without an intermission, you know.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Fortunately, he was the only one throughout the day. So since I'm still young, I can at least take it. But after an hour and 30 minutes, I start to lose interest. Or the attention span starts to lose it, I should say. So sorry. All right. Anything else? Or is it okay we jump into the last question?
You're welcome to ask me the last question then.
All right. So, given the amount of negativity that you've been seeing in the world these days, I don't know how much you watch in terms of the news or anything, but these days, I feel like people need some sort of hope. So, what would be your message of hope for musicians and people out there so they can move forward with their lives?
It's tough. I mean, as you say, there's negativity and destructive behavior all around. And to be honest, I think art is one of the most important traits of humanity. Art is what gives me hope, I think, for human civilization. For someone to be able to create something out of nothing, it's harder than destroying stuff, but it's more important. And so art acts as the counterbalance to all those bullies and destructive people out there. Each individual who creates gets something out of it, enriches their lives. And if other people can get to experience their creations, then it enriches their lives as well. So collectively, hopefully it makes an impact. And we don't forget that there's more to life than all those negative things that we all know that surround us.
Just wanted to pause, make sure that there wasn't anything else after that. But
no,
nonetheless,
I don't have lots of thoughts.
No, it's all good. But nonetheless, spoke like a true prodigy. So, all right. So, Ian, we have reached the end of the podcast right here. We talked a little over an hour and 20 some minutes. I guess before we close out, would you like to give any shout outs to anybody?
Gosh, it'd be dangerous to mention names because there's so many and so many people I admire and respect in the indie community. And there's one who, sorry, I'm going to get a little bit tearful now because he said some really nice things about my new album just today. And I'm really moved at what he said. But I'm not going to mention his name because then there'll be 100 other people who felt that maybe they should be mentioned as well. But he knows who he is. And if he ever watches this, I deeply appreciate his appreciation of my music.
All right. They made it get emotional right there too. So that's all good. So
it's fresh and it just meant such a lot to me.
That's good. And actually, I think you'll share it, and then actually you'll probably put the hashtag or anything else afterwards there too. So, all right, it's all good. And just real quick for the audience, can you just mention what social media and streaming platforms you're on so they can check you out and interact?
Yeah, sure. The Sanctity of Crows on YouTube, Facebook, Blue Sky, and X. I think those are the only ones.
And I guess I didn't mention Apple Music is probably iffy about instrumental music, but are you on all the other streaming platforms like Spotify, Deezer and all those guys?
All the platforms. I mean, there's 100 and whatever it is, 160 or something platforms that my music gets sent to. Some of it does go to Apple Music, about half of it, I think. But yeah, this latest album didn't make it because my distributor felt it might be rejected as generic instrumental, and when they get rejections, they get penalized and they may lose the ability to upload music to Apple Music. So I can understand where they're coming from, but frankly, if you listen to my music, I don't think it's generic instrumental. So, I don't think Pink Floyd has this trouble when they upload their music. So, but nonetheless, that's life, and I've spent the last year fighting them about this, and I've got nowhere. So I just have to learn to be zen about it and just move on.
I guess so, but that is a bit of a bummer. So,
yeah.
All right, it is what it is. But nonetheless, go this year, and we have to close out like this. So, everyone, my guest today was Ian Napier, aka the Sanctity of Crows. He's hailing from Scotland. He's got his own music project out there, and kind of chilling all the streaming platforms that we just mentioned right here too. Let's go make sure to hit him on socials. Go support him on all the streaming platforms that he is on. Let's go help our brother out right there too. So, Ian, you do stay sick, because you know there's one pretty messed up world out there. Rock God. And unfortunately, I can't ask you to just take a pose real quick. So stay tuned, y'all.